Okay, so this is something that I figured I would make a video about. Basically, all the R&B girlies are supporting Chris Brown, especially recently. And so, I kind of got the idea for this video based off of all the backlash that Kehlani has gotten for taking a photo with Chris Brown due to his past history of domestic violence and all those things. Not to mention the fact that whenever Kehlani had the relationship with Kyrie Irving, like, they said that she cheated on him and all that stuff with Party Next Door, and Kyrie said that this later wasn't true, but Chris Brown literally basically said that there's no attempting suicide, and he was like very harsh about that. So to see this happening is just odd, especially for someone like Kehlani, who has taken the time to say Free Palestine, and just, it was very off-putting. And there's been a lot of backlash due to this situation, but there's also just been a lot of backlash toward Kehlani in general, and so many things that I don't know. I'm still waiting to see how that plays out. But yeah, that's bad. So that's kind of the thing that started off this video. In terms of some other recent events that happened, Victoriamonet recently just went to his tour, and she supported him another time this past year, and we were all just collectively eye rolling because, again, like, why would you do that? Is something that also had caught us off guard as well, so we had that situation. Here's a photo of Summerwalker and Chris Brown backstage at his tour. So yeah, I'm really not surprised by this one at all. It's actually kind of on brand for and everything, but that was a recent development. This was last year, I believe, but Lizzo asked Chris Brown for a photo and saying that, he was her favorite person, and we all know the whole downfall that Lizzo had after that because of a separate situation and stuff. And this was last year, actually. Chloebailey did her album, and she announced a collaboration with Chris Brown. And this is a screenshot of the tweet she did at the time, but you can see that people were not feeling this at all because it has 35 quote retweets and 13k reposts and stuff like that. So you had that, and then I just remembered that Normani, she appeared in a music video for his song. She got a lot of backlash for that as well. So yeah, those are just some recent examples of the popular R&B girls right now supporting Chris Brown. I'm sure that more of them support him. I think Jenny Aiko has done a song with him and stuff like that. I know Tinashe did a song with him and stuff. I'm pretty sure she said in that situation that the label kind of forced her to do that, and she didn't want to do it, and she's actually denounced that stuff, so I can actually, respect that. But I'm just bringing up all these examples to kind of show you a pattern. And so I say all that to say, what do you guys think of all these situations? Is it a thing where you really don't care? Because artists are gonna do what they're gonna do. If you like the music, it is what it is. Is it a thing where you do care, but at the same time, if you like the artist, you're still going to listen to the music and just all those things? Because for me, the way I feel about it is, yes, all these situations are disappointing, especially because I like most of these artists and I listen to them and stuff. But also on the same token, it's I don't support his music, period. Whenever he did the song with Chloe, I didn't listen to that song. I didn't. And I made a whole TikTok about it and just said why it's disappointing. And especially the fact that he just didn't really work with her target audience. We weren't gonna go and listen to that anyways. So it's just something that gets me, is someone pointed this out. But all these girlies who are going to support Chris Brown, it's just okay, but you guys aren't even getting the same energy back. I don't see him at any of their shows or supporting them and anything like that. So I think that that's part of the situation as well. The most that I can do is just condemn the behavior and not support if he does work with them. And so if anybody who knows, I always keep my foot on Chris Brown's neck and everything. And some of my friends are do we stop listening to these artists and stuff like that? I think the point, and one of my friends said, is to kind of take the stock out of a Chris Brown featured stuff, because that's why some of these people are still collaborating with him, because, we're gonna get a hit. Him and Chloe's song flops. I'm pretty sure it was on the Bubbling Under for the Hot 100 chart, and there's only 100 positions on that, and then the Bubbling Under is, the Bubbling Under. It is what it is. So that song didn't perform well. And I saw this interview, she was they hated it at first, and then everyone started going up for it, and da-da-da. No, they didn't. Now you're just being revisionist. Now you are being revisionist and stuff. A great point that was made is that they're going out of their way to support him, to collaborate with him with stuff like that, but it's ruining their stock as an artist. It's ruining the public perception and stuff like that, because you're willing to, work with an abuser, so people are going to view you a certain way. So, it's already one thing to do that, and then to have the song flop on top of it, that's already something. And just with the audience that these artists in particular cultivate and stuff, then you should know it's not going to go over well with your audience, and his audience isn't going to really make up for all that stuff, especially because due to everything, his reputation is obviously taking a hit due to this, and it's also just he only has a small cult fan base. you know? So I think that that's part to add to the conversation as well, like ruining your public stock reputation to a degree because you wanted to work with Chris Brown or the label or whatever it is. But I mean, a lot of these artists are willingly working with him, so I thought that was a good point. And another point that my friend made that I really liked was she's saying there's a difference between being an abuser and like actually supporting an abuser. You know, both of them are wrong, but at the same time, like, it's not as bad as them because they're not the abuser. So like that's also like trying to like put that in everything. So yeah, all I can do is just hold them accountable for doing it, because at the end of the day, nobody made you collab with him for the most part, take the picture with him and give that support. So you guys have to be held accountable for doing that, especially for your audience. Like, these artists don't know how to read the room. You cultivate a certain audience and stuff like that, and whenever you work with him, you can't be surprised at the backlash. So I think that that is also part of it as well, for sure. I think there's kind of like levels to being problematic, certain things that can be said or done and all those things. I mean, Jillscott was trying to defend Chris Brown and also talking about her stepdad who poured concrete and whatever the fuck. I mean, I don't know. I never really got into Jill Scott's discography before. I don't plan to, based off of those comments. And, you know, we had certain other artists, you know, erykahbadu defending hashtag that man. And yeah, she just said some really disturbing stuff. So that's why I've never gotten into her discography, even though I hear good things about the music itself. Also, Lizzo supporting Chris Brown. I didn't really like her music anyway, so it's no sweat off my back to not support. For some of the other girlies, like I said, I like their music, won't support their work with him and stuff like that. Like Chloe, I didn't listen to that song with Chris, but I did listen to the rest of it in Pieces album, which was trash anyways. But I listened to the new album. I'm gonna review that on my main channel, Anastasia 25, in this upcoming week. And it's definitely different if they like come out and support them and I don't have any prior experience with their past music for me to kind of just cut it off. Like, I already didn't get in, so it is what it is. It's different if like I actually already liked their music before, but I think it also kind of depends on the degree and stuff like that. But they can be held accountable for that behavior, and then I can enjoy the music outside of that. Are you guys going to hold these people accountable? Do you guys care? Or do you guys not care? I think another thing with this situation and stuff, and I said this in one of my videos that I did, because I made a whole video talking about separating the art from the artist, and I will link that below at the end because it's kind of pertinent to this conversation. But it's annoying to me, like, people supporting Chris Brown already, but it's one thing to support and it's another thing to defend, and that's what they do. Like, people think just because, oh, I like this artist, I have to defend their actions, and that's not the case. You know, I'm a John Mayer fan, I'm a Justin Timberlake fan, but am I ever going to defend their actions? Absolutely not, you know. And so that's something like that. You know, there's a thing about monetarily supporting the artist and stuff like that as well. So I think there's so many different things to it. But yeah, some other thing on this whole conversation, it's kind of like not surprising, but it's just annoying and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like that thing of the R&B girls working with hashtag that man in the 90s, the one who wrote I Believe I Can Fly. Like, so many of them have worked with him, and I'm gonna condemn that because like that situation has been out before the whole documentary and everything, and you guys knew. You know, even my favorite Mariah worked with him, and I said, like, that's not right. I gotta hold her feet to the fire for that, because, like, why would you do that? Lady Gaga worked with him. She taked on the song. But, like, again, the stuff was kind of, like, already out at that point. Another thing, too, is, like, there will be artists and people who have, like, horrible behavior, like Diddy. We knew about him not paying his artists, and there was, like, a lot of rumors about, you know, him just being terrible to people in general and stuff. And so Carisha, like, now she's announcing him because of everything that came out with the Cassie lawsuit and stuff like that. But had that extra stuff not come out and the public reaction be the way that it is, like, I feel like she still would have, like, stayed with him and kept it quiet. So I think that, you know, like, with the situation with the I Believe I Can Fly man, it was literally like that stuff was already out, like I said, but then whenever the documentary came out, then all these artists felt the need to condemn it, but we had access to a lot of horrible information and you still chose to collab with him. So a lot of it is just kind of like performative and stuff like that. They don't really care unless it's like hurting their bag or their reputation in a way to be associated, and even then there's kind of like degrees to that. So I think that that is also part of the problem as well, because like you kept collaborating, you kept working with them, and you pretended like, you know, there was no problem, there was no situation, even though you probably knew everything that was out. And then whenever people feel a certain way about it, then okay, I gotta, you know, distance myself. So it's very calculated in that way, and I think that that's a problem. Somebody said this as well, but a lot of these artists and like women and stuff are very much coddling Chris Brown. Like, he brought up after the Rihanna situation, like, all these women in the public eye were talking about he deserves a second chance. Okay, what about Rihanna, the woman that he abused? And so many people stop at the Rihanna situation, and we're not talking about the Karrueche situation and her literally having to get a restraining order on him, and just all the other physical altercations he had over the years, the Frank Ocean situation, and all that stuff. So, like, yes, there's the Rihanna situation, but there's so much more. And not to mention, you guys should definitely look up the full details of the Rihanna situation if you haven't already, because, like, I knew it was bad, but, like, it was way worse than like I even could have thought. A lot of these people don't understand just because they support Chris Brown doesn't mean that we're gonna support Chris Brown. Like if you come up and you say that you support him, that you like him and all that stuff, we're gonna say our opinions on that. And like that's just something you kind of have to take. Like if I make videos about Justin Timberlake, if I make videos about John Mayer, people aren't going to watch that. People aren't going to support it. People are probably going to have to say, you know, something and get their licks in. But I mean, I'm always for that. You know, like I always say, like I don't support them as people. I condemn them as people. But I like the music, and like I said, there's varying degrees of it. I think it's a lot easier to listen to someone who says problematic things than someone who does problematic things and harming other people. So I think that that is also part of this conversation as well. But I think there's a lot of different facets to it and stuff. But I think taking the stock out of a Chris Brown feature and constantly holding his feet to the fire and holding him accountable, I think is something. And someone was saying like, oh, a lot of people love Chris Brown and y'all just gonna have to get over it. Okay, and a lot of people hate Chris Brown and y'all are going to have to accept that. Like every single week I see people try to say that this man was the victim in a Rihanna situation. He was not the victim in that situation. Stop defending him and all that stuff, and his behavior after that situation has shown the kind of guy that he really is. Like you guys just have to accept that. And somebody said this too, but it's also just like there's certain spaces that Chris Brown is not going to be allowed in. Like his marketability is only going to get so far because of his history with domestic violence and beating women, all that stuff. Like you're not going to be marketable to a certain degree and everything. So I think that everyone just has to accept the severity of a situation and stuff like that. I think a lot of his fans just can't accept that he is not going to be like a superstar just because of how everything has went down, and like no matter how much coddling you do or defending of him, it's just he's not going to go back up to where he was before the situation. I think they have a hard time with that. They try to be revisionist and make up lies, but we all know it. The damage has basically already been done, and so I think that they just have to get real about that. But yeah, if you support Chris Brown in 2024, I'm definitely giving it a side eye just because of the past history and everything like that. I'm sure some of it's now will be commenting on this video whenever I post it on social media. Fuck Chris Brown. I say it before, I say it again. I'm always going to keep my foot on his neck, and it just is what it is. Y'all can say what y'all want, but the situation is the way that it is. Y'all got to accept that. People don't like him. Yeah, all I can do is just hold these people accountable. I can like the music that I like, but I won't support any Chris Brown music. So that's kind of my stance on it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, and let's kind of continue that discussion there. Like I said, I did a whole video talking about separating the art from the artist, and it kind of goes in more to this conversation, but I thought that this was interesting to make its own separate video because it is something that's been happening recently, and just the kind of discourse behind that, and it's something that has spoken out in the past, you know, with certain girls supporting him. But it's always a good thing to kind of wrap all my thoughts up once, and I feel like we had a productive conversation about this recently. So yeah, let me know what you think, and that's it.